Good evening, Tougaloo family. How is everyone? Good. Yeah, okay. With just a little louder. How are you? I know it's a little. Okay, good deal. Okay, well, before we get started this evening, before we applaud and reduce this moment to an event, we are going to ground ourselves. So if you will indulge me, I would greatly appreciate it. So if you're willing and able, I would like for you to place both feet flat. If you are too short, just let them dangle. It's okay. Sit upright, not rigid, right? Be comfortable and attentive. And take one slow breath in for me. And release it. Now I need you to locate your pen and your notepad. And let us be reminded that this is a lecture series featuring prominent leaders across this great nation and globe. So you're not here just to observe, you're here to reckon. And we want tonight to be both an examination and entertainment. So do me a favor, look to your left. Now look to your right. It's gonna feel weird at first. In this room are educators, organizers, students, public servants, community members, people who influence policy, culture, curriculum, capital, and conversation. So allow us to take inventory for one moment. My MSJ fellows, if you will join me at the front, please, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Turn and face the crowd, please. All righty. So we're gonna, thank you. So we're gonna be active participants in class this evening, okay? So I need you all to look around if you can define colonialism, not simply as a historical conquest, but as a governing logic that reorganizes land, labor, language, law, and legitimacy. I don't see anybody looking around. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're gonna keep going. So I need you to look to your right now if you understand that the displacement of indigenous people was not incidental. Okay, and my fellows are taking inventory. We're gonna continue this conversation. So look around if you recognize that racialized chattel slavery was not an unfortunate contradiction to democracy. Okay. Look to your left if you are aware that Mississippi's persistent poverty rates are not accidental, but are tethered to deliberate political and economic design. Okay, I see some heads moving. Okay, good deal. So look around if you understand that state power has historically been justified through narrative, through myth, discovery, innocence, meritocracy, and lawlessness. Okay, I see a few nods. Look to your right if you've ever benefited from systems that you did not build. Very little head movement, okay. Look to your left if you've been harmed by systems that you did not choose. Okay. Look around if you recognize that in different ways, both can be true in the same room. Okay, I see some people looking around, all right, okay. So this moment isn't about guilt, you all, it's about clarity. Now we're gonna engage you physically, if you will indulge me. So I need you to stand if you believe education must disrupt complacency. Only if you're willing and able. I need you to stand or remain standing if you understand that neutrality in the face of injustice is itself a position. Remain standing if you are willing to interrogate your proximity to institutional power. This is good. Now look around. Notice who's standing and who's sitting. Now remain standing if you are willing to move from awareness to responsibility. Good job, class. So I need you all to notice who's standing, who remains seated. If you are willing to question the narratives that sanctify conquest and criminalize resistance, remain standing for me. Okay? If you are willing to examine how colonialism has reshaped land, ownership, wealth distribution, carceral systems, and geopolitical alignment, not just historically, but in the now. Okay, good job. You all may sit. Thank you. Now, I didn't say you were done. Come back, fellows. I said you could sit. All right, so one more moment. If you are only willing and able, I need you to reach your hands to the individuals on your left and right. What you're holding is labor, labor that built infrastructure, labor that harvested land, labor that generated capital, labor that sustained institutions. Much of it is uncompensated. Much is unacknowledged. For centuries, the liberty of some was subsidized by the disposition of others. So while you're holding on to those hands, I want you to consider these three questions. Whose labor sustains my comfort? Whose land underwrites my security? Whose displacement funds my stability? Now gently release, but do so with awareness. Now this speaker series, fellows, you may be seated, thank you. This speaker series, you all, centers international solidarity, oppression, and radical thought. Radical not meaning reckless, but meaning returning to our roots. And tonight, before Amanda Seals speaks, the question before us is not whether injustice exists, but the question is whether we will continue to rationalize it. Thank you all for joining me. I will now turn it over to my colleague and partner in peace, Professor Liner.
Good evening, Tougaloo College. I said good evening, Tougaloo College.
Good evening.
That is the kind of energy that I thought would permeate these walls. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is far more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Those words articulated from the confines of Birmingham jail by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. echoes everywhere, ubiquitously, I might add, as he sought to examine tensions that have yet evaporated. And on one frame, those tensions were conviction and comfort, and in another frame, those tensions were moderation and moral clarity. There are campuses where history is studied, and there are also campuses where history walks the halls. Tougaloo exists in the latter. The scholars who have meandered inherit not only buildings and pedagogical sophistication, they inherit a tradition rooted in intellectual courage. The scholars here know all too well that ideas are not impartial, that they shape policy, animate movements, interrogates its assumption, exposes its contradictions, unsettle its power, and ultimately, with a great degree of insent, not willing to retreat, forces it to respond to justice. So it brings us to a prevailing query posited by Amanda Sears. Was Dr. King really radical? A more pointed question for this room may be, what does radical mean to Tougaloo scholars? Does it mean loud? Does it mean disruptive or morally precise? An unwillingness to accept shallow understanding when justice demands depth. The organizers who once graced this campus were called radical. The thinkers who refused to be delayed were called impatient. And those who saw education as a means to confront injustice was said to wait. But history, I contend, has a way of revising its concordance. And Amanda Seals asks us to revisit that vocabulary. And in her work, she asks us to reconsider how dissent is remembered, and ultimately how critique is oftentimes softened over time. These questions, probing ones, I might add, belong right here. So on this evening, I ask us to not simply revisit the prevailing themes and connotations, but we seek to examine how courage is defined, how exigency is measured, and when does moral clarity become no longer convenient. So on behalf of Tougaloo College, the Board of Trustees, President Lee, and Cabinet, our illustrious scholars of past and present, it is my deliberate appreciation for the intellectual seriousness of this moment to invite you to allow this evening to press you to think more rigorously, ask questions that don't allow you to operate in a stratosphere of shallowed understanding, and in a place where scholarship has always been accompanied by conviction. We welcome a voice that is unafraid to ask the questions, probing ones I might add, that force us to sharpen our thinking. And so in the spirit of those who have sent us, and in the spirit of the shoulders in which we stand on, I ask you subtly, very profoundly, to help me welcome an artistic intellectual to not only Tougaloo College, but Woodworth Chapel. So on this evening, join me in a very loud chorus in welcoming Amanda Seals.
That was a pump fake right there. Amandla. 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 Power to the people. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. My name is Candace Abdul-Tawwab, and I serve as the Executive Director of Mississippi for a Just World. I am honored to have co-founded this organization alongside Palestinian-American Imad El-Turk, a man whose life purpose has been shaped by profound personal loss, as 17 members of his family have been murdered in the Palestinian genocide. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge him, as he has made such a sacrifice, and he fully supports the work that we do. Fully supports the work that we do. Brother Imad. Mississippi for a Just World is a human rights advocacy organization. We exist to connect Mississippians to the global struggle for liberation, human dignity, and justice. Our work is rooted in the legacy of Mississippi's freedom fighters. Fannie Lou Hamer, who taught us how to mobilize and move as an unbreakable unit. Medgar Evers, who was assassinated by a racist because he empowered, I say racist because Trump has recently required the removal of the word racist from his landmark. Medgar Evers, who was assassinated by a racist because he empowered us to civically strategize. Unita Blackwell, who showed us how to govern our own communities. Vernon Dahmer, who challenged a system for his right to vote, even when he knew his life would be taken. James Earl Chaney, who was murdered for organizing the youth on the front lines. Hollis Watkins Muhammad, who taught us about long-term stabilization and institutional building. And so many others, whose courage and persistence laid the blueprint for resistance and radical transformation. We believe their legacy demands not just reverence, but action. We hold firmly that the fight for justice in Mississippi is inseparable from liberation struggles worldwide, whether in Palestine, Sudan, the Congo, Haiti, Venezuela, or anywhere in the world where people are subjected to state violence, occupation, and erasure. Since our founding, Mississippi for a Just World has stood boldly and unapologetically on the side of justice, even when that stance has come at a cost. Our opposition to the occupation and genocide in Palestine has not always been welcomed, but we remain unwavering in our commitment to truth, moral accountability, and liberation. Our lecture series, Voices for a Just World, is committed to bringing dynamic, radical, bold, and courageous voices that will push our community to move past apathy, move past fear, and move past complacency. Tonight, we move on the same path as our beloved Mississippi ancestor, the Honorable Ida B. Wells, a radical truth teller who documented the horrors of lynchings and the everyday brutality our ancestors were subjected to. It is she who stated, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them." We are watching every single day the savagery of ICE agents who have been trained by Israeli military to hunt down human beings, terrorize and separate families, detain children as young as 2 years old, kill protesters point blank in the face, intimidate, arrest, and imprison journalists, truth tellers. I want you to take a moment. Picture the images of our ancestors, hunted down like dogs, dragged from their homes, lynched by rope and fire. Men, women, children, elders, pregnant mothers hung, bellies split open, newborns stomped to death. Black men and women being subjected to generations of sexual violence. Our communities consistently being burnt to the ground, ethnic cleansing by way of the Great Migration to the north and to the west to seek refuge from horror, the horror of white supremacy. Our entire race being terrorized so that power could remain undisturbed. white supremacy in the name of Christianity. Now, in modern times, think of the Black lives taken by state violence. The police, whose institutional origins began as slave patrols, now being trained by the Israeli police. The countless lives that seek to exist. George Floyd, Ashe. Breonna Taylor, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, Alton Sterling, Corinne Gaines, and Jalen Lewis, who was murdered by the Capitol Police here in Jackson. Names that echo because they are not isolated tragedies. Now, finally, I need you to think about our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Families being bombed 24 hours a day since October 2023. Pregnant mothers being blown to pieces, exposing their forever sleeping baby still inside their wombs. Children sniped in the streets while trying to get water to survive. Neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Children buried beneath concrete. Babies starved in plain view of the world. Entire bloodlines wiped away, never to exist again. Heinous, yet familiar crimes against humanity. All done by the state of Israel and in the name of Zionism, what Black folks can recognize as white supremacy. What I have described is what happens when human life is measured as expendable, when systems decide that some people are disposable in order to preserve political power and economic comfort. Since 2019, the state of Mississippi, whose population is 3 million, has invested over $50 million into the state of Israel, a nation that has slaughtered over 680,000 people, including over 300,000 children, and 270 journalists, truth tellers. A nation that provides free health care, subsidized housing, a living stipend, free education through the university level to all 9 million of their Israeli citizens. A nation that subjects the indigenous population of Palestinians to apartheid, what we know as Jim Crow. Meanwhile, the state of Mississippi is the poorest state in the nation. While Mississippians struggle to meet their most basic needs, families are burdened by the highest grocery tax in the country. A state where the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, where rural hospitals are closing due to lack of funding. In parts of the Delta, families still rely on outhouses for their bathroom facilities. We live in the capital city, where the seat of Mississippi government lies. We're the state with the highest population of Black folks in the nation, and some of us, including me, still have brown water when they turn on their faucets. And to add insult to injury, last legislative session, an Israeli caucus was formed within our state. Israeli delegates connected to that effort have sought partnerships with our institutions of higher learning, institutions born out of resistance to oppression, institutions who have been intentionally underfunded. They even had the audacity to meet with Tougaloo professors last year with promises of partnerships and funding. The great Tougaloo College that has long stood as a sanctuary for principled thought and resistance. We must also confront the influence of money in our politics. When elected officials accept millions from powerful lobbying interests like AIPAC, an Israeli lobbying firm, we must ask ourselves, who are our elected representatives representing? Who are they accountable to? The people or the donors? What is actually being exchanged and at what cost? What does it mean to tell the truth in a moment like this? What sacrifices are required to name what others are afraid to say? What did the Honorable Ida B. Wells face in her unwavering quest for truth and justice? And now, I want to speak directly to us in the most loving way possible. Leadership must be measured not only by who holds office, but by whether their actions align with human dignity and human rights. It is not betrayal to question our leaders. It is our responsibility. Do you agree? Yes. Let me say it again. It is not a betrayal to question our leaders. It is our responsibility. Do you agree? Yes. Okay. Stay with me, family, because I know how some of y'all like to tussle. About 3 weeks ago, former Vice President Kamala Harris came to Jackson. The air was abuzz with excitement, as she is seen as one of our heroes, right? The first Black woman vice president. Who wouldn't be excited for the opportunity to see her, right? No, for real. People paid a lot of money for those tickets. But did you know that former Vice President Kamala Harris accepted over $9 million from AIPAC, the Israeli lobbying firm, and doubled down several times on her support of Israel, despite us all witnessing the annihilation of Palestinians in their own land? Family, I need us to understand that the same disgust that we have for the KKK and white supremacy, disgust for the terror perpetuated in the name of God, for the constant assault on innocence, for the devaluation of sacred human life, is the same disgust we should have for the modern state of Israel, which is not the biblical Israel, and Zionism. Disgust for the terror it perpetuates in the name of biblical mandate, for the cruel expulsion of men, women, and children from the only homes they and generations of their ancestors have known. And for the devaluation of sacred human life through genocide. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Either we believe this or our actions betray that we do not. This plea is specifically to those who continue to support and celebrate leadership because they happen to look like us, or they happen to be the first at something, while being silent on clear violations of human dignity and human rights. It is okay to be critical of our leadership and demand moral and ethical alignment. Representation alone is not liberation. Let me say it again. Representation alone is not liberation. These are not comfortable reflections, but progress has never been born from comfort. It has always begun with people willing to see clearly, speak honestly, and act with moral courage. So I am asking you, not gently, but urgently, will we continue to normalize apathy? Will we continue to confuse critical discernment with being contrarians? Will we continue to trade our moral clarity for comfort? Or will we refuse? Will we refuse the lie that this is the best we can do? Will we refuse the silence that protects injustice? Will we refuse the politics that demand our loyalty while being rooted in violations of human rights? History is recording us. How will our descendants describe our legacy? Tonight, we welcome a radical truth teller, a brilliant artistic intellectual, a voice moving in the tradition of the Honorable Ida B. Wells, and all of the ancestors who refused to be silent, people who understood that justice requires courage, and that courage demands accountability and transparency. I will close with this quote of our beloved ancestor, the fearless Ida B. Wells, who inspired everything that I have shared tonight. One had better die fighting against injustice than die like a dog or a rat in a trap. Thank you. Free the land, free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free Haiti, free Venezuela, free Mississippi, by any means necessary.
Good evening, family. Thank you all for joining us tonight as we once again celebrate radical voices. This particular occasion is important as it falls between Black History Month, a time when we commemorate with intention the Black labor, Black intellect, Black innovations, and Black voices that built this country. I am Anisu Chipendo. I am a Mississippi for a Just World Fellow and a Zimbabwean international student at Millsaps College. Officially, I am a double major in sociology and political science. But at heart, I am an artist who believes that creativity, storytelling, and art are central to social justice. Just 2 weeks ago, in this very space, we heard from the brilliant Angela Davis, who challenged us all to do more than just talk about freedom. She reminded us that freedom must be imagined, and it must be practiced every single day until it becomes reality. Each of us has been blessed with unique skills, talents, passions. These aren't random, nor are they accidental. And if they're used purposefully, if they're used with intention, our talents can be powerful. We aren't all orators or organizers. We are musicians, writers, poets, athletes, caregivers, chefs, physicians, scientists, mathematicians, educators, designers, inventors, and so much more. What matters is that when we commit to what we love in conscious ways, when we put our potential into radical action, and when we build for our communities, our unique contributions come together in collective action for our collective liberation. Tonight's guest is a living and breathing example of what that principle looks like in practice. Amanda Seales is a Grenadian American who is multifaceted and multi-talented by every way of the word. Most know her from her role on HBO's Insecure, but her portfolio as an activist and an artist extends far beyond any single role. She is an artistic intellectual. She is a decolonizer. She is a scholar with a master's degree in African American studies. She's an author, a writer, and an advocate. She is a director, an award-winning performer, and a musical artist who has toured with Floetry. For decades, she has produced socially conscious media in which she edutains, using humor as both entertainment, but most importantly, as a form of pedagogy. She makes you laugh, she makes you think, she makes you learn, sometimes all at once. What truly sets Amanda Seales apart is her integrity. She has never separated entertainment from responsibility and accountability. She challenges the face of power. She interrogates the root of subjugation, and she speaks honestly about the patriarchy, race, capitalism, and the everyday contradictions of being a bold Black woman in America. She refuses to soften her message to make it palatable. Neither does she speak down to her audience. She encourages transparency, authenticity, curiosity, and for us all to question the systems of oppression around us. So, tonight, we're not welcoming a performer. We're welcoming a voice that refuses erasure, a voice that asks the hard questions, a voice that reminds us that joy, accountability, creativity, and resistance can coexist, and a voice for a just world. So family, please join me in welcoming someone who speaks fully, speaks boldly, and uses her talent with intention, Amanda Seales.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel like my phone is gonna die, so I'm jotting down my notes real quick. While I'm jotting these notes down, I want you to just ask yourselves, what makes somebody a leader? Because we went from voting people to represent us to calling them leaders. And I'm like, no, we're the leaders. They are representing us. They are following our lead. That is the dynamic that should be the case. However, we have found ourselves in a flip of the switch where we are constantly running behind people, reminding them of what they have promised to get into position, with no mechanisms to put in place to remove them were those promises not kept. However, that's not simply just taking place on a civics level. I feel like that's become just the mark of America, of the United States. You know, our sister was talking to us about, Dr. Lauren Long was talking to us about grounding, education. She said, education must disrupt complacency. What education? See, this is the thing we have to start getting nitpicky about. We have to start actually dissecting and really getting to the nitty-gritty about what these words actually mean. Because the education that we're receiving is so often provided to us by the same folks oppressing us. So we can't just say education. We also have to remember that what has been deemed intellectual has in many cases been decided by those who discarded that which we lived by for centuries. That which preserved this earth for centuries. Indigenous knowledge was in the way. It was in the way. It's not that it wasn't knowledgeable, it was inconvenient. Because when you know what you're grounded with, when your roots run deep, you are harder to blow over. So when we talk about education being that which must disrupt complacency, we have to ask ourselves, how did we become complacent? And I would argue that in many ways it is due to our education. We have been trained. We haven't been educated. We've been trained. We have been trained to believe in a system that does not care about us. We have been trained to believe that just because someone is an elder, they're wiser than us. I know some old people that are not elders, okay? I had to deal with one on Instagram yesterday, but that's another conversation for another time. We have been trained, whether we want to admit it or not, to believe that white is right. And I would argue that so many of us don't even realize it. Like sometimes you're just like, wait, why did I just trust that person saying the same thing as that person? Because you've been trained. This is not a slight to you, to me, to us. This is an awakening. You see, many will say we are in unprecedented times, and then others will say, well, all the times have been unprecedented. That literally defeats the purpose of the meaning unprecedented, by the way. I want you to know, though, we are in a time of awakening that is beyond simply just a release of files. The awakening that has to happen is understanding the depth of your power and that it exists beyond the tangible here on earth. I want you to really hear me when I say this, because the people that are oppressing us are very deep in their power. And they are working with that which is not simply tangible on earth. It is dark. It is dismal. It is sadistic. And they gain power from your trauma, from your worry, from your toxicity. Every time you mimic them, you empower them. So when we talk about education must disrupt complacency, we have to also talk about an education of values. We have to ask ourselves, what are our values? And I would argue that many people in here, when they ask themselves that question, they don't have a list off the top of their head. You're meeting the world at whatever it gives you in that moment. Well, baby, that's difficult to just move on the quick like that. No, you got to be standing on something that's with you every day, so that no matter what meets you, you are able to meet it. When we talk about education, we have to learn a new way of living. We have to learn a new system of existing if we are going to defeat that which continues to berate us. We are the continuance. We are not the finality. My recent book, What Would the Ancestors Say?, asks us, what would our ancestors say about where we are now? And what type of ancestor are we trying to be for those coming after us? So many of us don't even think about after us. We might think about our kids, but what if you don't got kids? You're going to think about your cats? Well, the cat ain't even going to last longer than you most of the time. So when we are thinking about what is here and what we have come to meet this world as, we go to Dr. Lauren's next point. Neutrality in the face of injustice is itself a position. If you don't know what your values are, you are inherently neutral. Because you can be moved whichever way the wind blows. If you're not grounded in that which means something not simply to you, but to all of us, then you are easily swayed into whatever they want you to be. Where do you think cones come from? Their values are opportunism, survival. I'm just trying to stay alive. Not realizing that you are staying alive at the forfeiture of your soul. Your shell is moving, but what's that worth? I believe that we actually can live in our souls. I really do. I believe that we have been deceived to say that, well, this is how the world always has been. How would we know? The folks who tell us about the world don't want us to believe there was something better, because then we might actually fight for it. So neutrality cannot exist in any time, particularly this time. Neutrality gets couched in the misuse of the concept of nuance. The concept of, well, two things can be true at once. Should have never taught Democrats two things can be true at once. Because they done dragged that through the mud. I got people saying, well, you can be in the Epstein files, but like not be in the Epstein files. You know what I mean? I don't know about y'all, but it matters to me what people think of me, not because it is how I shape who I am, but it's because I know that my energy reverberates. So I want my energy to reverberate properly. So I can't control what people do with it. And I can't control what people think, but I can control what I put out. And I can call it back. So neutrality is not something I exist in, because I don't want people to have as much ability to control. I want to, at the very least, give as clear a direction as possible. I don't want my laser to be refracted by confusion. When I got here today, there was 7 cops outside. They was here for me. And I said, y'all could go home. And they said, no, we here for you. And then I said, well, are y'all security or y'all the cops? And one woman said, we the cops. And she was just too hype about that. And I said, well, I don't F with the cops. So y'all good. And they said, well, hold on now. I said, no, I don't F with the cops. I don't want y'all to ever see me walking through nowhere with a bunch of cops around me. If you see that, y'all, save me. If you ever see me walking through somewhere and I got a bunch of cops around me, just know I have been compromised. Go check on my cats and my dog, Jordy, and make sure everything is okay at the house. So when people will say, well, what about black cops? What about them? I know. What about them? We're not moving in there and saying we turning all this around. We're not moving in there and saying we shutting this down. We're going to act different. That's what Candace was referring to when she said representation alone is not liberation. I don't care if you at the table if you didn't show up with an axe. I don't want to sit at none of these tables. I don't want to break bread with none of these people that have broke our backs for centuries. That's not elevation. That's not liberation. And that's not access. But I will ask you, what is liberation to you? Have you ever asked yourself? Have you ever imagined what is freedom? Because so many of our version of freedom was actually provided to us by the oppressor. Being rich. I had an ex and I found his affirmation book. That man had wrote down 7 times, I will have a private jet. I will have it. Where are you going? Why is that the goal? You're not even paying bills. I mean, I'm just... She told you it was going to be entertaining. So when we are asking ourselves, what is freedom? It really isn't as complex as some might say. You know, I always say the truth is a short route. Think about it. Anytime somebody started telling you a lie, it's usually got a long journey, right? Well, you see, what had happened was, that's the preface. The truth is typically a yes, a no, a this is what happened, pop, pop, pop. Once somebody started taking you on that ride, you already know, well, now see, this is some BS now. The same is with freedom. Freedom is simply the opportunity for your soul to exist without being in opposition with the world it exists in. How many of you feel like you get to exist that way? Like, really think about it. Whether that's the job you're in, the relationship you're in, the family you're in. I saw some faces just now. Somebody said, That has been beset upon us. Because when you study nations that existed before us, so often there is so much more of a concept that everybody is different. And that's a welcoming. That is valuable to the tribe. Difference. When we talk about community and we talk about women, when are we going to acknowledge that women are just as valuable, if not more, to the sustaining of the community? Men, y'all got stuff too. Don't let me trip. You know, when we talk about neutrality and having a position, many of us are coming into our realities around our position of politicization. What are politics? Right? A lot of people say, I don't care about politics. Well, politics cared all about you. I don't know if anybody in Mississippi can say they don't care about politics. Because Mississippi, they done politics y'all to death. Literally. So when you ask yourself, where does my politics lie? What you'll see is there's 2 types of people. There are people whose politics lie in a concept around economics, career, right? Positioning. And then there are people who understand that politics is living. Your politics is aligned with how you get to live. These people's politics don't want you to live. And they're no longer just white people. So we also have to become far more investigative around who we deem as sharing in our values and our politics. We no longer can operate in the same mind frame of the civil rights movement. We have moved along in time, and we have those lessons. We also have a whole new era of cooning. Cooning is a career now. It's a career path. It's a weapon. It's always been a weapon. However, now it is so easy to just simply wake up one day and say, you know what? I think I'm going to sell black people out for money. Let me get on this Instagram and get busy. Thing is, though, you don't even got to be on the internet to be doing that. You could just be in a position at a college and not caring about the students. Because let's not forget that we love to just put the onus on the people up there. It's the people right here sitting next to you that are also propping up and perpetuating those up there. Absolutely. Your manager at Publix who won't respect that you have an ailing parent is perpetuating that BS up there. They don't have to be an elected official. Your professor that really does not understand that you have a specificity in your learning that requires you to draw while you are in class so that you can listen, and instead wants to force you to keep your head up just so they can feel like they are dominating you. That is someone perpetuating what's up there. I need to draw, damn it. I'm trying to listen to you. When you realize this, though, you realize how much power each of us has. So many times we will absolve ourselves of taking a stance beyond neutrality because we'll say, well, what does it matter? I'm just me. Well, if you were just you, you wouldn't be here. You understand what I'm saying? You're here. You're literally here. You. We're all here. We're all sharing space. We're all exchanging energy. So it matters. So if you're going to be here, be useful instead of being used. Now, Dr. Lauren Long continued by saying, interrogate your proximity to institutional power. And that is exactly where we are at in this talk. Are you trying to get on? Because that's the thing a lot of people want. I keep hearing everybody talk about I'm trying to get on, or I'm trying to get what? The bag. Everybody want the bag. Well, I'm going to tell you, I done had the bag. It's overrated. Okay? There was a very obese man from Brooklyn who once said, more money, more problems. I'll let you sit with that. My millennials get it. The rest of y'all can Google it. It was all a dream. Hanging pictures. Every Saturday, Rap Attack. I love my tape rock. Smoking weed and bamboo. Way back when I had the red and black. With the hat to match. Remember rapping dope? You never thought of hip hop. Now I'm in the limelight because I rhyme tight. Time to get paid. Born sinner, the opposite of a widow. Remember when I used to eat? East of Buzzy, Boozy B, Kid Capri, Funk Master Flex. I'm living life like you thought I would. Call the crib. Same number, same hood, and it's. And if you don't know, Still got it. See, young folks, we still got it. They're over there in their quarter zips like, this is corny. If your goal to get the bag only is for you to get the bag, you've already lost. I've literally spent my whole career in a let's us get the bag, only for the person who I'm in the us with to then turn on me. And I'm like, dang, we was getting the bag. Ah. But then they fall off because they were never the one that was going to get the bag. Their adjacency to my light made them think they were the star. You were not. You were not. You were not. This is when your interrogation of proximity to institutional power has to get checked. Because institutional power will tell you that by being in position, you now are better than somebody else. That's what it does. It's hierarchy. I'm higher than you. And not enough do we see those positions as, no, it doesn't mean I'm better than you. It means I have more responsibility. And that responsibility is to you. The best managers are ones who understand I'm here to manage these people's lives who are a part of this, not manage the work that they create doing this. The productivity nonsense is out the window. We are in a time where we have to understand that our proximity to power is literally just to be used to create more money for a small amount of people, to continue to keep us in position to make more money for a small amount of people, to continue to, you see where I'm going with this? It's a conundrum. So how do we stop it? That's the question we have to keep figuring out over and over again. How do we stop this? Because people want to strike, but they want to strike on a Friday from 2 to 4 every other month, except for Target. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all these caveats. And I understand because we don't feel like we have a safety net of us. So we don't feel like we can disconnect from the proximity of power because we feel powerless. So what happens when we then empower each other? What does that look like? That is the work of your community. Empowering each other. And I'm not saying nothing you haven't heard before, but we got to keep saying it over and over and over again, because maybe the last time you didn't have an idea, but this time I said it, you're like, oh, actually, this time, you know, right after she did the Biggie verse is when I remembered that what we could do is, like, it's like affirmations. We have to keep drilling this language because it is a spell that can really inform us. It is prayer. It is incantation. It is love. What is the work that we can be doing? What is the way that we can be existing as us? We have never been taught how to do that in this land. We have actively been taught how not to do that. Even when we were finding ourselves in fields, when we were sharecropping, it's always been under the greatest of duress, and the us was always under the mindset of survival. You're being forced to choose. Mind you, there is enough for everybody. So that's also why you have to interrogate your proximity to power, because so often power is presented as scarcity. There's only enough room for these 3 people to have this position and to know what they're talking about. Well, but there's a whole community here, and we don't even like them. So the proximity to power has to be interrogated, as well as the quest. What does power mean that you are seeking? Are you seeking a position because you want to be able to do to others what has been done to you? Like, keep it a buck with yourselves, you know? My homeboy wrote a film, and he's an alpha. And he wrote a film about being an alpha. And he was like, I just can't get past that we really are hazed, then we become alphas, and then we do the same thing. And this cycle just keeps going. And he was like, I don't know that it's useful. So I wrote a movie about it. I was like, I know they're going to have a problem with that. But I love that he did it. Because the interrogation to power is going to come first and foremost by the artists. However, I want to be clear. If your interrogation of power is happening because the power gave you permission, you're not really interrogating the power. Do I need to say that again? If they invite you somewhere and you do the thing that you said you was going to do, and then they pat you on the back, you didn't do nothing. It may have been a good time. It may be fun. But we need to call things what they are because so often they're co-opted. So we got to get real sharp about calling things what they are. Labels has been used against us. Now we need to make them used for us. You a coon. You're a Zionist. You cool. You cool. You cool. I'm not really sure about you yet, so I got my eye on you. And the reason I say this is because, again, we have to have consequences. The fact that there's just been no consequence for Kamala Harris actively supporting a genocide is beyond my scope of comprehension. I don't know why y'all call her a leader. I really don't. I met her. I was unimpressed. Is it really an accomplishment to be the second in power of the greatest imperialist nation? Is that something that we're really lauding? Wow, you get to be the second in power to bomb all these people for no damn reason. Why is that an accomplishment? I just need us to interrogate this. When we talk about these positions of power, I see y'all getting uncomfortable, so I know I'm cooking. When we interrogate positions of power, it becomes uncomfortable because we have been trained to believe that our liberation will be assimilation. Y'all love Obama. Bomb is in his name. That man bombed more folks than any president before him. He deported more folks than any president before him. But it's cool because he's black doing it? That makes it worse to me. And some would say, well, why would you expect anything different? Because Medgar Evers was assassinated not because he was fighting for the right for us to vote. We already had the right to vote. He was assassinated because, as Candace said, he was reminding folks of their power. The only reason black people should be in politics is to remind us of our power as a community and to empower us, period. We have never had equal access, ever. So if you are in a political position as a black person and you are not doing that, you are useless. And some would say, but no, he's inspiring folks. What does that inspire you to be? Because black excellence won't save us. It won't. It won't. If it would, we would have already been saved. Because we've been excellent. We was excellent this whole time. We literally mastered growing food on land that was not our own under the threat of death. We didn't even get to eat the food we grew. That is excellence. We learned an entirely different language, and we managed to stay alive though our spiritual grounding was completely severed. I don't think y'all really understand how real that is. When Palestinians tell you we will not be taken off our land, it's because they believe we are the land. Like our physical, we are the land. Black people, we have had to be the land. We didn't get to connect to it. So we have had to be the soil. Our bodies are the soil. And we don't acknowledge that enough in how we support that which seeks to colonize our bodies. So if we are supporting folks in positions of power that support those that actively weaponize our bodies against us, we are literally harming ourselves. Someone like Kamala Harris is literally, she refers to herself as the top cop. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like cops. However, the office of the presidency has never, at any point in time, been one of merit. It has never been one of moral character. It has never been one of ethical caliber. So why on earth are we heralding someone being in that position if they're not using it to bring values into a space where they are bereft? You're quiet. You're quiet. We have to change. We have to change. There's no other fancy way to say it. This is the time of reckoning. You know, the earth is round, it moves, whether you're a flat earther or not, it's round. Cycles. We are in a time loop. We are in the 60s, but with high-tech surveillance. We have the knowledge of our ancestors, but we are not applying it. You see the elder right there said, we're not. That's how I know I'm right. Babies like me, animals like me, and elders like me. When people be mad at me on Instagram, I'm like, you don't understand. Babies like me, animals like me, elders like me. I'm good. All my heroes rock with me. You also mentioned that we have to turn awareness to responsibility. So we could sit here and talk all day, and I really literally can talk all day because I've done it today. I've literally talked all day. However, what does awareness to action look like? So many of y'all in this room are already doing it. You're already involved in action-based initiatives. I want to bring something into your space that you may not have considered already. But in these spaces, how much do you know about the people you're working with? Besides their interest in the same thing. And I say this because I believe that one of the reasons our resistance movements have been able to be infiltrated every time is because we really don't know nothing about each other. We don't have a tie to each other beyond the politics, which means that's a trauma bond. That's toxic. We're not moving from love. And that, as we learned in Harry Potter, is the strongest. Thank you. Shout out to my nerds. That is the strongest force. And it sounds real corny. But if you think about it, love has made you do some things that you would never do, good and bad. Love has given you strength that you didn't know you had. So if we're doing that individually, imagine if that were actually brought together collectively. And if we go on a scientific, metaphysical level, our collective thoughts can actually shift. It can shift the actual world because the earth is made of energy. It's not a rock. It has a heartbeat. It has life forms all through every layer of it. And we are of the earth. I don't know who made us, but I know they looked at the earth to make us. Because everything in us is reflected in the actual earth beneath us. We were told there is a God in the sky so that we would stop caring about protecting the God beneath us. And I know some of y'all are like, why they bring this heathen in this church? But I rebuke that because God is everywhere, so ha. If you're waiting for Jesus to come back, I'm like, he's here. If you're waiting for Harriet Tubman to come back, she's here. If you're waiting for Malcolm and Medgar, and they're all here. Do you know your cells are knowledge? Your cells are like heirloom seeds. Do you know what heirloom seeds are? We in Mississippi, y'all don't know what heirloom seeds are? Okay. You see how I got that? We in Mississippi, y'all don't know. Why am I talking like that? Heirloom seeds are seeds that have had 3 different grows. And so in those 3 harvests, they have learned. And they have learned the soil that they're in, the climate that they're in. And so with each harvest, they become stronger because they have accumulated knowledge. Our cells, through scientific study, do the same thing every 3 generations. And our cells, every cell in our body has the same knowledge as every cell in our body. So the cell in your, that's why they can get DNA from pretty much anywhere, because your body is just a bunch of cells that know each other. They're hanging out. So we are carrying knowledge from generations. We always talk about intergenerational trauma. We don't talk enough about intergenerational knowledge. Yeah, we carry in the trauma and we got to work that out. But I'm also like, can we talk about the magic? Can somebody answer their phone? Let them know we talking about some things over here. Come on down. So in my book, What Would the Ancestors Say? When I'm talking about what would the ancestors say, I am asking us to really think about our connection to our ancestors, if we have one. I want y'all to just take a moment. What ancestors do you talk to? All of them. Spell that. A-L-L-U-M. All of them. When we are communing with our ancestors, we are reminding ourselves. There's a lot that needs to be learned, y'all, if we're going to meet this moment. However, there is so much that we simply just need to remember. It's already in us. I was talking to a homegirl of mine the other day, and she said, you know, your ancestors on the other side show up different than they did here. And I said, exactly. I said, what you mean? She said, because they're pure on the other side. The soul that's on the other side is the soul they had when they got here, not the soul that was tainted with being here. Because so much of being here ends up moving your soul in directions that shape you into hardness, right? That shape you into fear, that shape you into anger. And next thing you know, you can't even remember what your soul was because you living behind 4 or 5 layers of some other stuff. I'm trying really hard not to curse because we're in a church, okay? But she said, over on the other side, when you're communing with your ancestors, you're communing with them from a pure place. And I said, I want to challenge myself to be that on this side. how do I get myself to that pure place on this side? And what that requires is everything that we have discussed. It requires real work of the self. It requires real commitment to being wrong and owning that and shifting. Not being wrong and saying, well, I'm human, I make mistakes. Because we do that and then we make the same mistake. But at that point, it's not a mistake, it's a choice. You knew it was whack when you did it the first time, but you didn't think you was going to get caught. Someone over there. Caught. And the reason I want to encourage this is because when you are seeing a world where moral clarity is not only inconvenient, it is considered a problem, it means that we need to shift to make a world where moral clarity is convenient and also is expected. I don't know, when we started lying like people be lying, y'all notice people be lying? I did not know people be lying like that. People really be lying. Cut it out. Ask yourself, why do I be lying? People be pretending, avoiding. Ask yourself, why am I avoiding? Ooh, you avoiding. He looked up real quick. Oh, she's talking to me. It was Freudian. Mm-hmm. Passive aggression. What's that about? Cut it out. But the bottom line about all of this is that it really comes down to the fact that you do have the power in you to change this world. And it's going to start with you. And, it's nothing new. Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution will not be televised. He didn't literally mean televised. He meant that revolution happens within you. We are all a revolution. And in how we interact with this world is how we will change it. And that begins with you actually being honest with who you are and what ancestor you want to be for those coming after you. And I implore all of you to make that call. When your ancestors call on you, answer the phone. And I implore all of you to challenge yourselves to say, how can I be the best ancestor for those coming after me? And stick with it. And teach your children about this. And talk to your friends in your group chat about this. Because this is where the revolution is going to happen. A lot of people think it's going to happen on the front lines. Well, baby, we black. We not there right now. There's other folks on the front lines that need to be there because that's where their revolution needs to happen. The white folks who was like, it can't happen to us, that's why your ass is right there right now. Because you need to experience the fear that we have had to experience just being alive every day in this place. And in that regard, we need to start experiencing the freedom that we deserve. And it's going to start with us taking ownership of how that exists in us. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you, Mississippi!
Give it up one more time for our sister Amanda Seals. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. I ask that you also give a round of applause to Mississippi for a Just World, for Tougaloo College, for all of the people that helped put this event on today. Listen, I am just offering a few closing remarks. We're grateful to our sister for all that she gave us today. We're leaving this space filled, right? Am I right? Are we leaving filled? Listen, I think of the words as I've considered what she's offered to us today. Much of what we've talked about, whether it was in the session with the students this afternoon and the questions that they had, as we talk about the struggles that we not only face as black people in this nation, but the many struggles we've talked about across the nation, I consider the words of Brother Malcolm. And what Brother Malcolm told us, he said, he said, a lie told once is question. A lie repeated often enough becomes accepted. And once it becomes common sense, it stops being investigated. He said, this is how deception survives. And so this exercise today, listening to our sister speak to us, and the time that she spent with our students today is about teaching our students that we don't want to tell you how to think. We're teaching you that you have the power to think. Question everything. Question everything. It got a little heated in here today. Some people got a little uncomfortable with some truths that we had to confront. We've talked about some people that we idolize, right? I not only want you to question their role and their representation of you and what leadership should look like, but I want you to go a little further than that. Is it really just about the leadership? I was once told that when we think about these positions, these political leaders and all of this, that we should think much like the plantation. You see, on the plantation, they often had an overseer, and the overseer's responsibility was to put enough pressure on the slaves that they yielded enough crops so that they could make all the money that they could. In the early days of enslavement, the overseer often was a poor white person, right? Because that was the best job that they could find in a free labor society. But as slavery became more ingrained in our culture, oftentimes that overseer looked just like you and I. They would be a black person. And the reality is, well, if your overseer was black, maybe he didn't beat you quite as bad. Maybe he beat you worse, right? But the reality is that your problem was never with the overseer in the first place. Because whether your overseer was black or white, you were no more free. So your problem was never with the overseer. Your problem was with the plantation itself. And if you take my words as a structural critique, then you will begin to understand that whether your president or your vice president is black or white, that's not the issue that you truly have. You have issues with larger systems of oppression like colonization, multinational corporations. You begin to understand why corporations like Starbucks are funding the genocide in Palestine, right? What is their interest there? You have to begin to ask these questions. And how our people are being exploited. And ultimately, when you ask these questions, you come to the place that our brother King came to not long before he died. You see, King had a conversation with Harry Belafonte. And in that conversation, he said, you know, Harry, I'm beginning to question, I'm beginning to wonder, if we are what we're fighting for and whether we're fighting and integrating into a burning house. He said, I believe that we're going to win this struggle against Jim Crow, against America's apartheid, but if people can't be fed, if people can't take care of their families, if we can't share goods, services, and power, then it's senseless to integrate into a house that looks like that. It's about your self-determination. It's about making the connection between people who may be across the globe that look like you or suffer like you and deal with the same challenges that you do. And so we have to come to a place where we challenge those things and build a society beyond contradiction. And so this isn't just, as I always tell you, an academic exercise. This was some good edutainment, right? But when Dr. Long first stood up here and she asked you each to stand, I saw that I couldn't see anybody sitting down from where I was sitting, right? You stated that you were willing to make a commitment to challenge these things. You stated that you understood that neutrality was a position itself, right? And so we're calling on you to be a part of what we're building at Mississippi for a Just World. We're calling on you to understand that we are more powerful in our numbers than the systems that oppress us. Language is an interesting and powerful thing. They put labels on you that sometimes convince you that you don't have the power that you truly possess. We're called minorities. Well, I live in a city where I'm 83% of the population, so I'm no minority in Jackson, Mississippi. We live in a state where we're just about 40% of the population, if not more, and at one point it was 80% of the population in the state of Mississippi. And more importantly, when we look across the globe, people of color make up the majority of this world. And so if we start making the connection between Jackson, Mississippi to Palestine, then we realize the power that we possess. So I'm going to encourage y'all to take your programs here, take the QR codes. That's an inside joke for those that weren't here, all right? Take the QR codes that are on your programs. Please learn more about Mississippi for a Just World. Learn more about this partnership that we're building with Tougaloo College. We thank Tougaloo College. Again, give it up for Tougaloo College. I'm going to tell you why this is an important moment, and I'm going to expose that we've had conversations related to this. It is a powerful statement when we recognize that these are unprecedented times, sister. That an institution decides that instead of shrinking back like most people are trying to do, that they're going to lean into what justice looks like. They're going to lean into these conversations that institutions are losing their funding behind, right? That they are being attacked behind. And so I want the Tougaloo students, I want the Pineywood students to realize how important of a moment that you're sitting in the midst of, right? That people are being intentional around your liberation. I love my people. And I want to fight for a world beyond contradiction because I have two little girls at home that I feel that I owe it to. And that's what you're being delivered right now in this moment. And so again, thank y'all for joining us. Please, please, please get involved with Mississippi for a Just World. And one last time for our sister, Amanda Seals.
Okay. Amanda is going to do a book signing. We are going to hold it at Warren Hall, which is the cafeteria, not far from here. We'll have some of our fellows escort people over, usher them over. She will be there soon. We're going to give her a moment to take a break, eat some food. But please follow us over there, and thank you all for coming. Assalamu alaikum.